Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Princeton, where in our open and welcoming community, we live our message of hope, love, justice, and joy. We extend a special welcome to our visitors this morning. We're very happy that you're here, and we hope you find us warm and welcoming. If you haven't already stopped by the newcomer table, please do so after the service. We can add you to our e-lists and invite you to everything that we're doing here at UU Princeton. We're a very active congregation, and we'd love to see you at everything. There are a few things after worship this morning that will draw to your attention. The first is that this morning we will offer a listening session for our older children and teens to share and support one another following the results of the election. 5th through 12th graders are invited to join Reverend Jennifer at 12:15 in room 7, and you are welcome to bring food and drink from coffee hour with you. If there's an interest in holding a similar space for some of our younger members of our congregation, please also contact Reverend Jennifer to set something like that up. And also today after worship, the Leadership Development and Nominating Committee is offering a program called Conscious Communication. This will improve leadership and the development of communication skills in an interactive workshop designed to allow space for all of us to learn and practice. It'll be in the Founders Room right after the service, led by our congregation member, Angela Kova, who looks forward to joining with you all as we expand our abilities to communicate well, even with difficult conversations, which seems timely today. And I heard there'll be snacks too, so you can get a little bite to eat at that workshop. It's right after worship in the Founders Room. There are a bunch of other announcements and happenings in your order of service. Please contact the church office if you have any questions about any of them, and we can connect you with who you need to talk to. And now at this sacred hour, grateful for each and welcoming all, let us be together for a time of peace and balance, for a space of community and acceptance, to remember the good and seek the true and look together toward the love that holds all. Come, let us worship together.
Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down, there's another truth. You are not alone.
We invite the young and the young at heart forward for wonder and wisdom this morning. Good morning. Hi. Oh, good. I'm glad you're close. No, I would like to have you close because we're going to have an important talk this morning. Well, I'll tell you more about it after the service. All right, good. We have some help of one another of coming up. So we're going to have an important talk and a little exercise around what it is to be a Unitarian Universalist. So we are a people that believe in kindness. We believe in hope. We believe what we do with our lives matter, and that's to be kind and caring and helpful. And because we believe so much in doing good things and loving, it can be really painful when hard things happen. Who has ever had a hard thing happen? I think most of us might. Maybe some of those hard things are when we lose someone because they died or because they moved. Maybe some of those hard things is when we have a big problem, like at school or at work or getting along. It could be when someone isn't nice to us or when we are sick or hurt. And sometimes this hard thing can happen. So at UU Princeton, and I know for many of us in our lives, with our friends and our family, we give lots of love and time and energy towards building a better world. That is part of who we also are as Unitarian Universalists. We come together to build what we call beloved community. Now, beloved community are a couple of words that mean not only that we treat one another with kindness, but we also work to make sure every single person, every one of us, people in our community, the people in our country, even out to the people in the whole world, we work together so everyone can have a happy and healthy life, that they have everything that they need to have a happy and healthy life. That's really, really important. So we can imagine that some of those good things we use to create beloved community are like blocks, right? So with blocks, we've got blocks here of different sizes in different shapes, in different ways of kind of creating things together, because when we're building beloved community, we all contribute a little bit of different things. Now, this is about all the time we have to create something here right now. But what if we all worked together and had a lot more blocks and we worked on creating something for days? How much bigger do we think it might get? Maybe from that side of the room, from that side of the room. What if we worked on something for months? Blocks, lots and lots of blocks. What if we worked on something for years? It could make the whole entire world if we did years and years and years. What else I'm hearing? A couple of different things. Yeah, the ceiling is all the way up there. Now, how would we feel if we built that biggest of things and something came and this happened? How would we feel? How would you feel if you worked on something like that and it got knocked over? Sad. Other feelings? Milo? Annoying. Marin? Mad. Think we might have to rebuild it. Oh, you stay with that. You stay with that. We might be in shock. How could this happen? We might be afraid, because when structures of goodness fall down, that's scary. When something happens and we feel like everything is broken, it's really important. There's a few things we can do, but one thing that's really important is we take care of ourselves. Drink water. Eat foods that are good for our bodies. I say our bodies because our bodies are all different. So we find the things that work for us. We rest. We take a bath or a shower. We brush our teeth. We dry our hair. Maybe we listen to music for those of us that like music. It's really good to be with other people, visit a friend, hug one of your family members, play outside with someone. And look at all the people here right now. We are all together, including the people that are online. Can we give a wave to our friends that are online? And being together is awesome. It's one of my favorite parts of ministering with all of you. It's also important to breathe, because sometimes when hard things happen, our bodies get tight because our emotions are tight. So when that happens for me, I try to remember ways to help me breathe. And I'm going to share one of them with you today. Can we imagine a triangle? A triangle. We can imagine it in our brains. We can make a little thing right now. And I use my hand, and what I think to do, and I'm going to show you first, and then we're going to try it together. For how many sides does a triangle have? Three. I think all of you would have gotten that. So for 3 counts, we're going to breathe in one side of the triangle. Then the other side of the triangle for 3 counts, we're going to hold our breath. And then when we get to the bottom, we're going to breathe out for 3. And so because triangles have 3 sides, we're going to try that 3 times, all of us together. So breathe in, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, breathe out, 2, 3, breathe in, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, breathe out, 2, 3, one more. Big breath in, 2, 3, breathe out, 2, 3. Oopsie, hold, 2, 3, breathe out, 2, 3. Sometimes when we have a lot of emotions, it's hard to remember. But it is good to remember to engage our breath, because it's important to put oxygen, that's air, into our bodies. And then as we take care of ourselves, there is another thing we can start to do. And someone mentioned this earlier. Look at all these blocks. They represent goodness and kindness, and they've fallen over. What could we do next? Rebuild them. Rebuild them, even if it's in small ways at first. Maybe with some of us doing a little bit more than others at times, because we all take part at different times and in different ways. So imagine in your minds helping each other, 1 block, and then 1 block on top of that, and 1 block again, and 1 block, rebuilding. Sometimes that's slower than we want it to go. Sometimes we have to gather together to protect what we are making. There may be times when parts get knocked over again, and we have to start over. But let me tell you one more thing, or a couple more things, about being Unitarian Universalist. That when it comes to kindness, caring for other people, building beloved community, making sure that everyone has what they need to have a happy and healthy life, we don't give up. And we have one another, and we don't have to do it alone. Can we rebuild it? No. And sometimes that's where we are. But we will rebuild it. And you know what? I will leave these here. So for after service, if this room is clear, you can come rebuild a little bit. Okay? But for now, we're going to go off to our gatherings and activities together.
This morning, we invite everyone to come forward to light a candle. While I read names, these names I will read are of U.S. citizens in the states and territories who were transgender citizens and who died a violent death because of that. Within the past year, there were 50. Please come forward to light candles while we remember these people. Savannah Ryan Williams, at age 38, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Madison Montana, at age 26, in Los Angeles, California. Care Hansen, at age 21, in Riverton, Utah. Trip Schultz, at age 31, in Salt Lake City, Utah. Amber Miner, at age 40, in Raytown, Missouri. Megan Riley Lewis at age 53 in Bel Air, Maryland. Lexus Walker at age 43 in Norfolk, Virginia. Kitty Monroe at age 43 in Phoenix, Arizona. Blair Christoph in Dallas, Texas. Giselle Stone at age 20 in New York City. Quinn Joy in Iowa. James Moen at age 23 in Grand Junction, Colorado. Sasha Williams in Las Vegas, Nevada. Africa Paria Garcia, also known as Emma, at age 25 in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Cecilia Gentili at age 52 in New York City. Nex Benedict at age 16 in Owasso, Oklahoma. Noah Jackson Chase in Charlotte, North Carolina. Ashton Miles Clatterbook in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Righteous Torrance T.K. Hill, also known as Chevy, in Atlanta, Georgia. Diamond Brigman at age 36 in Houston, Texas. Alex Taylor Franco at age 21 in Lehi, Utah. Meraxes Medina at age 24 in Los Angeles, California. Yella Clark at age 45 in Angola, Louisiana. T. Arnold, also known both as Legend Billions and Ace, at age 36 in Hallandale Beach, Florida. River Nevia Goddard, also known as Phoenix, at age 17 in Stowe, Massachusetts. Basil Brown at age 21 in Lafayette, Louisiana. Star Brown at age 28 in Memphis, Tennessee. Andrea Doria dos Passos at age 37 in Miami, Florida. Alistair Matthews at age 17 in Lockport, Illinois. Darry Moore at age 23 in Saint Genevieve, Missouri. Keita B at age 46 in Kansas City, Missouri. Jaslyn Johnson at age 18 in Las Vegas, Nevada. Tay Dior Thomas at age 17 in Mobile, Alabama. Michelle Henry at age 25 in San Francisco, California. Joshua Kimo Rainforest Laranang Melor Jr., also known as Rain, at age 31 in Denver, Colorado. Liara Kaylee Tsai at age 35 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. M. Tapia at age 52 in Denver, Colorado. Paulie Likens at age 14 in Sharpsville, Pennsylvania. Kenji Zamonta Spurgeon at age 23 in Seattle, Washington. Shannon Boswell at age 30 in Atlanta, Georgia. Ev Smith at age 16 in Norman, Oklahoma. Monique Brooks, also known as Jade Monique Thomas, at age 49 in Orlando, Florida. Dylan Gurley at age 20 in Denton, Texas. Vanity Williams at age 34 in Houston, Texas. Tyvion Lathan at age 24 in Baltimore, Maryland. Indiana Grayson at age 27. Kasim Omar at age 29 in Columbus, Ohio. Barbie Iceland, also known as Red China, in Chicago, Illinois. Cass Tristero in Bellingham, Washington. And most recently, Pebbles Ladim Doe, age 24, in Allendale County, South Carolina.
Good morning. I imagine all of us can get triggered when we try to find common humanity with people on the other side of our crazy cultural and political divides. For instance, I can get triggered with what feels like body memory of the violence I experienced as a young gay guy in small town middle America during the early AIDS crisis. Back then, many believed God or evolution had sent that plague to cleanse society of people like me. I felt that pervasive violence keenly, which may be similar to what some trans people face today. All of us have good reasons for protecting ourselves from engaging faithfully with the other side. I have a friend who went through liberal boot camp training. This is a real thing, to prepare for regular appearances on Fox and other right-wing media outlets. He told me the training centered on shifting one's primary goal from changing listeners' minds to deepening their belief that conservatives have more in common with liberals than the media on either side would have them believe. Negotiating the line between feeling complicit with evil or madness and bridging a divide is often tough for me. During the early part of the last Trump administration, I leaned into confrontation and what felt like moral resolution. My approach to political conversation with Trumper relatives sort of echoed my insistence from the old ACT UP days 35 years ago. But after failing to change any minds, I discovered that this cultural moment requires something different from me than what 1989 called me to do and say. So when my Trump-supporting aunt optimistically said this morning at breakfast, "We'll see what RFK has in store for us with healthcare," I simply raised my eyebrows, smiled, and changed the conversation. I delivered the eulogy yesterday for her husband. We'd cried together. She knew I was leaving the reddest part of Pennsylvania this morning at 6:30 to get here to deliver a reflection to a bunch of super liberal UUs. So how to prepare for the next 4 years? The best Facebook post I saw on November 6th, 2016 was, "I look forward to your art and activism." But what does that require of me now? By 2019 or so, I felt like I'd found an intersection of what felt like politically engaged art and activism that involved putting as much of myself forward as possible to engage faithfully with the other side, by which I mean finding empathy with and emotional support for passionate supporters of Trump without compromising my convictions, apologizing for my rage when I expressed it, as I often did, and managing my fear. Most political conversations with Trump supporters felt like making art to me, and making art is supposed to be hard. During the days of Bill Clinton, Obama, and Biden, I reverted to my default position of political apathy, assuming that support for my center-left ideological and cultural place in the world didn't require much of me by way of art and activism. So perhaps the other side's coming into power pushes me to strengthen my resolve and sharpen my instincts for artful engagement with the world. To be honest, that's not much consolation. It doesn't make what happened on Tuesday okay, but it's something. This morning, I think of Toni Morrison's quote, "This is precisely the time when artists go to work." I'm doing Jennifer's triangle breathing thing. This is precisely the time when artists go to work. There's no time for despair, no place for self-pity, no need for silence, no room for fear. We speak, we write, we do language. That is how civilizations heal.
About 8 years ago, I woke in the morning after a largely sleepless night and turned to words that have often provided me comfort when the world seems upside down. Wendell Berry, the great 90-year-old naturalist author, wrote them. They're also in our gray hymnal as reading 483. He is in our gray hymnal 5 times, once with the words to a hymn, 4 times with readings. In this one, I turned on the one that I turned to on that heartache, headache, soul ache morning. He wrote, "When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free. That particular morning was the first after Election Day in the 2016 election, when it appeared as though pettiness and vulgarity had won, and that impulsive and self-serving cruelty was likely to come. It was a day when a highly qualified woman had lost to an underqualified man. It was a day when the moral fabric of the country seemed to fray severely, and who knew how long it would stay that way. And yet repairers of that fabric were already mobilizing in the morning. Good people were doing what good people do immediately, organizing, planning, and creating. But I needed to be reminded of something larger than that moment, and that's why Wendell Berry's words were so grounding. He says to take a minute, get some fresh air, and be where the wild animals are. He says to rest in the grace of the world and know some freedom from despair. He does not say to rest forever. Berry is a writer who intends to shift the public consciousness of what it means to be a citizen and a fellow human. He's an activist whose art encourages us to know more deeply our connections to the natural world and to one another. He believes that awareness of these connections will produce a greater commitment to one another and the world. And he believes that with that commitment will come a stronger ethic and practice of care for neighbor and stranger and planet. His art, his writing intends to challenge and change the reader. His writing, pleasant and beautiful as it often is subversive, in contrast to the values of our broader culture and expressed in many of our lives. To read him is to convict the culture of misaligned values and destructive habits. To read him closely is to also convict ourselves. And from that conviction comes change, brought about through writing created by an artist activist. But in times of despair, he encourages some rest and some care. He echoes the story about Elijah in 1 Kings in the Hebrew scriptures. Elijah, the prophet, has been serving Yahweh in some quite strenuous and dangerous ways and finds himself overwhelmed and in danger himself. He goes into the wilderness and seems ready to just give up. He falls asleep, and while he does so, an angel puts a jar of water and some bread by his head. He hears the angel say, "Get up and eat." He does so and falls asleep again. After a while, the angel reappears and says the same thing, telling him that he has to be strong for the journey ahead. He has to take care of himself to do the work before him. His body is important, the angel is saying. You have to eat and get enough rest and drink enough water. Do all that and you'll be better prepared for what is to come. The body is the earthly home for the spirit and the point of connection with others. It's what we have to serve, to love, to work, to challenge, to embrace, and to live. And the human scribes of these sacred imaginings knew that so well that they imagined an angel literally giving food and water to a mighty prophet who is overwhelmed and despairing. There's no pep talk from them, not then. They don't wake him up to give him a rousing speech of positivity and be the change. They can see that he is exhausted and in despair and needs to rest in the grace of the world for a spell. That pep talk comes later, though, and has already kind of happened too. But in that moment, humans write this angelic, holy concern for the body, saying rest and eat, and then rest and eat some more, and only then get up and get going. 8 years ago, I was in a rest for a spell to loosen the grip of despair moment, as I was late Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, when the results narrowly turned us again toward vulgarity, an open racism, an open transphobia, an open xenophobia, and yet again turned from a highly qualified woman to be our commander-in-chief. A day when that doesn't happen, though, is coming. Though it will be long, long overdue, it will happen because that particular moral arc is being bent toward justice by activists who face every defeat with resolve and creativity and greater strength. My faith on Wednesday was in the people who create change, who have, since our country has been a country, never taken a loss as the final decision, but as fuel for continued change. It has always been that way. Every setback leads to progress because people make that progress happen. That ceiling has not been shattered, but it's been cracked and chipped and will one day fall as long as we keep our hammers out. And that is the only way to honor the efforts of those who've paved the way for progress that's been forged, to keep going through win and loss, replacing sexism with equality and all other oppressions with justice and compassion. The way to honor those who've created today's opportunities is to create opportunities for those of tomorrow, and to indeed rest, but to never stop. To rest and eat and rest and eat and then get up and get going. To care for ourselves and to be the angels in other people's lives by encouraging them to do so as well. To make space for people to rest and recharge, to unplug and delete those apps for a spell, to normalize finding balance and not worrying ourselves into sickness, and then to get up and get going. Having connected with something larger than the moment, we can then join together and serve something larger than the moment, larger than despair, something larger than even the joys that come when the decisions are as we favor them. We can serve that vision of values enlivened in ways that serve all. True democracy, universal love, radical welcoming and expanding generosity. We can discuss different beliefs and ideologies with people and show that we can disagree with civility, which is a particularly needed gift for a democracy to be healthy. That was how it was in college for me. I majored in political science in a large public university with a lot of late in life returning students and a lot of retired and current military students as well. Right of center politics were common, and our debates were of those on the far left and far right in every nuanced position you can imagine. And the great value of that education wasn't of information. It was in learning how to talk to people civilly with whom we strongly disagreed. Classes were constant exercises in this habit, classes in which we expected to be challenged by fellow students and professors, classes that taught us the value and growth possibilities of learning how to disagree openly and honestly. We would sometimes even learn a little bit about grace. I once took a class on the presidency taught by a former Republican congressman who assigned us a book report first thing. I ended up reading about Jimmy Carter and writing a report that castigated Carter's opposing partisans in Congress for treating him unfairly, only to realize when my paper came back that my professor had been in the Congress that had antagonized him so, and had been a vocal opposing partisan. With an easy smile, he said there was a little more to all that than that favorable biography I had read indicated. And then we talked about it during office hours. It was fascinating and very civil, a great conversation. I was still absolutely right. But at least I understood where he was coming from. And later, he even gave me a good grade on a substandard take-home final that was late because I had to get an emergency appendectomy. He was really, really nice. I think he was one of those professors who loved to teach but didn't like to grade, and those were always my favorite types. Even though we seldom see that sort of thing in press and politics, we can still practice it and see how that tempers the tone from citizens can trickle up to support healthier politics. That's how that change will happen, from us to the leaders, not the other way around. And though the electorate narrowly leaned in the other direction this time, that only means that we're pretty close to changing the conversation from fear and othering to hope and togetherness. On this election day this year, I put on my clergy collar and spent the morning at a poll in Philly. The collar was meant to help ease any conflicts that might arise if anyone tried to interfere with the vote. Thankfully, that didn't happen, and so the collar only resulted in a few people asking me to pray with them and for them on the sidewalk, which was lovely, and lots of questions about whether I was a priest or a pastor or a reverend or what I was exactly. Most of them were very nice, although one unwanted discussion happened with a guy who eagerly launched into an alarmingly frank description of why he just could never be a priest. I don't ever need to know all of that about anyone, but especially at 7:45 in the morning on a Philly sidewalk, not everything has to be shared. But then he went in and voted, so I thanked him and I hoped he had a great day. But all of those voters that morning woke up like I did on Wednesday. And went about the good work and concerns of their lives. They're caring for kids and grandkids and their aging parents. They're working, they're at church this morning. They're volunteering to tutor math and teach skills. They're caring for one another and creating together the fabric of a vibrant community that I was lucky to spend a few hours in. Many of the voters knew each other. The neighborhood had that kind of continuity and closeness. I watched young ones walking with elderly arms intertwined in theirs so that the elders wouldn't fall on uneven sidewalks. I saw donuts and cigarettes being freely shared. I heard questions about family members and friends who had not been seen in a while. I heard tragedies being shared and then saw the hugs and the parting exhortation again and again, including many saying goodbye to me to take care of yourself. It was that way before the election, and it is that way now and will be, I pray, evermore. Good people living in each other's interests, being neighborly, caring about each other. No one perfect, but all in this together, keeping a watchful eye on each other. And even though difficulty and pain certainly befall all, each has a network of neighbors with whom to share and who to share in their cares. No one is alone, and all is connected. It was that way on November 4th and was still so on November 6th. And what is before us now is the shared ministry of proclaiming that togetherness and belovedness in which we not only vote, but live in one another's best interests. A kind of togetherness not often felt in today's divisive world, but one that nonetheless beats in the heart of our shared humanity and is proclaimed by our common faith. A kind of togetherness that fuels healthy democracy, which is its own spiritual end for Unitarian Universalism, and a kind of togetherness that assumes commonality instead of antagonism. A kind of togetherness that King described as an inescapable web of mutuality, and Angelou pictures with the refrain, "We are more alike, my friends, than unalike." A kind of togetherness that Gwendolyn Brooks envisioned when she wrote, "We are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude and bond." For we are being played by merchants of hatred, exhorted to purchase through click and donation the denigration of entire groups of people. And to that, our faith has historically proclaimed that God is love, not hatred. And so this day we say, we will love. We will love our neighbors. We will love the stranger. Though we may not agree with them and we may vote in different ways, we will love them so that we are creating a world of more love, which is of the divine. Hatred profits evil, but love profits the good. And though the persuasion of profiteers of hatred may sway some sometimes, our message of love, shared with hope and in diverse company, has the power to open more hearts. It is the power that has created a better land throughout the generations, never in an even line, but steadily and steadily. Our ancestors made that happen, and it has never been an undefeated string of wins. Love and justice have always faced setbacks, especially in politics, but there have always been those who took a break, took a walk, took a nap, got something to eat, and then rolled up their sleeves and through sweat and ever-widening networks, rebuilt the good again and again, making it even better, making it more just and loving and compassionate and forgiving, made it a system that was built by better angels instead of worse ones, angels who long ago whispered, rest and eat, and then get going. Let us rest, let us eat, and let us get going, and enliven our heritage anew by building a healthier democracy, a more just country, and a land of freedom and equality for all. Though that was not the result this week, it will be the result tomorrow, should we put our efforts together and do it. May it be so, and amen. And at the end of our hour, we extinguish our chalice, knowing that its light stays with us until we gather again. Go forth grateful for the moments before you, the breath within you, the people among you, and the Spirit guiding you toward lives of love and kindness. And go forth knowing that you are held always and always with everyone else by that great love of no beginning and never ending. Go in peace, and amen.